I've been called a Paki most of my life. I'm pretty used to that. Things have been getting worse. People calling me a sand nigger, still calling me a Paki, so that hasn't really stopped. A jihadi sympathizer telling me to back home from whatever Islamic hole that I crawled out of, which was Norway. Also, someone else called me an undercover jihadi. I think people are just saying it now. I think we're hearing about it more now. But I have to be honest, I think the feelings have been there for quite a while.
Islamophobia on Twitter is on the rise. And sometimes that turns up offline too.
When you start muttering Sharia law, this and that, Ali Baba Park, that's the issue. So if you've got something to say, then you can say it.
There are these really significant increases in anti-Islamic activity. Now,
researchers at the think tank Demos have been looking at Islamophobia on Twitter for 5 months and have given us exclusive access to the data.
We've been seeing 5,000 tweets every single day which are anti-Islamic, seriously derogatory and hateful, being sent in the English language across the world. And it's been building month on month since May, so July was the worst so far, with just under 7,000 tweets judged as anti-Islamic every single day. And all of that amounts over those 5 months to over 200,000 tweets in total.
That was in the wake of terror attacks across France. The fear is how much an attack here could worsen the situation in the UK. East London Mosque. More than 7,000 people worship here every Friday. It's a massive landmark and a target for abuse.
We've received a lot of hateful messages from this user account here called Islam, the Evil Truth.
And what's he saying? Or she?
Muslims, attack and kill people, Muslims lie, Muslims can't be friends with others who are non-Muslims. Quite
graphic.
Quite graphic and gruesome, like this one.
That's someone being beheaded.
Yeah, so that's a picture of someone beheading someone and someone's carrying a decapitated head. Sometimes it's really abusive content which kind of leaves a scar in your mind. Sometimes I look at it from the point of view of my baby son who's going to be growing up in this kind of environment, and what kind of abuse is he likely to face as a result of his faith.
Rokeya Harris is 23. She's a student who lives locally and comes to the mosque. In between her studies, she's a published writer, and she uses Twitter a lot.
So this says, time to go, time to pack, it's time guys, you've had a good run, you need to leave, you've had enough time here, you're not integrated enough, you're threatening our way of life.
And do you get more messages like this when there's an incident like the Nice attack?
Yeah, absolutely, always. It doesn't really matter what I say or what I'm writing about or what I'm posting about. The responses after some kind of terrorist attack will always be slating Islam in some kind of way, or insulting Islam, or insulting me, or insulting my hijab, even if I'm talking about something completely unrelated, even if I'm sending condolences to the victims.
Quite a significant spike in
the Demos research shows there are large peaks in Islamophobic tweets around terror attacks. 20,000 tweets a day during the Nice attacks.
In the immediate wake of Nice, it's 20,000.
In July, the most Islamophobic month recorded so far, this was significant.
So each of these red dots is an anti-Islamic tweet coming from the UK. And that we can see happening right now, that's a digital reaction to the Nice attacks.
A massive red mass.
That's right, angry, abusive, anti-Islamic, all happening in the immediate aftermath of Nice.
This is not surprising though, is it? That people are angry after a terrorist attack and are taking to Twitter to vent it.
It's not surprising, no. I mean, people are angry in the wake of terrorist attacks, but that's what also makes terrorist attacks very dangerous. The Islamophobic tweets that we're measuring here, these are not people that are being angry at the terrorists. It's not people that are being angry at Islamic State. It's people that are being angry at the wider Muslim world. It's people that are blaming Muslims for the terrorist attacks. These are the things which are Islamophobic, and surprising or not, they are damaging, whether they're happening on the street or if they're happening on social media. Obama is a damn raghead explains a lot. Sorry to hear about France, these Muzzies just don't quit.
So what do we do about it?
Well, it's very difficult. It's important to say, actually, only a thin sliver of this is actually illegal. Only when there's an actual threat to life are people actually breaking the law. All the rest of this is actually sub-criminality, and therefore the people that are in the online space actually are far less protected than the offline space when it comes to receiving that kind of abuse.
Do you think Muslims are doing enough to separate themselves from atrocities like what happened in Nice?
Yes, I absolutely do think that Muslims are doing a lot to condemn these kind of attacks and disassociate themselves. I mean, community leaders are constantly coming out to condemn these kind of attacks. At Friday prayers, you know, the Imam will often condemn attacks that really have nothing to do with them. And it's come to the point now where I don't really think that me condemning these kind of attacks are going to change people's opinions.
While I'm interviewing Ruqayyah, a man behind us starts interrupting. I ask him if he can keep his voice down. He replies saying it's free speech, and then he adds, "There's no Sharia law here."
It's freedom of expression, but you've obviously chosen to sit here right now. So if you've got something to say, then you can say it. Do you want to talk about Sharia law? You want to talk about Sharia law to me? We'll talk about Sharia law. You obviously said it for a reason.
I wasn't talking to you.
Yeah, who were you talking to? Who are you talking to about Sharia law here, sir?
We're losing our right to freedom of expression. And I think...
Why is that?
Because we are. We're being told to be politically correct when we don't want to be politically correct.
Okay, listen, political correctness is one thing. I understand that you feel that you want to have a right to say certain things. I understand that, but we don't want Sharia law.
Conjecture, whatever.
Yeah, but I'm telling you as a Muslim that is not something. I'm telling you as a Muslim that isn't something that I want.
The way I see Islam, and again, I don't know too much about Islam, but to me, I see it as an ideology as opposed to a religion. I don't see it as a religion. I see it as an ideology.
I know, but that is you, sir, and that is a result of the things that you see happening around the world. I understand when you see the things happening around the world, you think that it is an ideology.
I'm not stereotyping you. I don't wish for you to stereotype me.
So, in a strange twist, our conversation about Islamophobia just got interrupted by some Islamophobia. What do you think of what you had to say?
You know, it does make me a bit sad that it's this normalised now, that it's almost like I cannot, sit in a park with you and have a conversation without some kind of Islamophobe wanting to get a word in. But as the conversation went on, as I engaged with him, which I do think sometimes it is worth doing because you don't know where these people have formed their opinions from. And I think that people really struggle to differentiate between everything they read and see on the news and things that they see happening around the world, how they kind of disassociate that with everyday Muslims that they see.
I don't actually want to say, ooh, Islamophobes, just bad, because I think the rest of us have a responsibility as well. Muslim, non-Muslim, we're obviously not having the conversations that need to be had for people to feel safe enough that they can have real conversations and get beyond the name calling.
Dia Khan is a documentary filmmaker who set up a magazine called Sisterhood to showcase female Muslim writers.
Every time a terrorist attack happens, we don't need to get a bland press release from the mosque around the corner saying we condemn it. That's not the impression I get that what people want to see. I think what people don't know in the UK and in the West is that the first targets of extremists are other Muslims. Muslims have been dying and suffering at the hands of these barbaric groups for decades, and nobody cared because the victims looked like me. Now people care because the victim looks like you. Many of us have faced, and many of our colleagues have faced persecution, violence, imprisonments because they've taken on extremists. But that's not the story that you're often told.
Dia says shutting down abuse is not the answer.
Look, I don't like racist Islamophobes, I don't like sexist pigs, I don't like lots of people, but just shutting them down isn't going to resolve this. The feelings don't disappear. The fact of the matter is, the UK is never going to be white again. It's just not going to happen. People can wish it, but it's not realistic. Similarly, our parents who have left Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Somalia, Muslim countries, for them to think that they can re-establish those countries and the lives that they had there over here, it's not going to happen. And I recognize the fact that that's a big loss for both people, for both sides. But the reality is that we have to move forward. The reality is that we're together going to have to find out, what does it mean to be British moving forward? What does it mean to build a society that includes all of us, where it means looking like me and looking like you?